Well, good morning, everyone. We're alive.
Here we are.
We're here. So chat rooms, like Captain Jeff was there in the chat room. Are they
Ah.
coming? I don't know if they're coming or not. Oh wait, Father Corey just sent the link.
What's he doing in the chat room? Is he on his phone? He should be doing his work.
No, he must not have had to take off yet. Yeah, he said he had to hit the shower, so he must not have had to take off yet for his training or whatever it is that he's got going on this morning.
Yeah. I think he's got a
Personally, I think he's just gonna go goof off somewhere.
I doubt it. Although, you know what? I mean, he's got a cool job. Have you ever been in those simulators?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've seen him. I've never been in them, but I've seen them. They're pretty impressive, actually.
Years ago, my son did a science project on flight, and they gave him access to a computer simulator.
Mhm.
So they gave him a joystick that was really like if you just barely touched it.
Oh, sure.
You know, and so he had to fly a plane with this thing, and
Oh wow.
yeah, and he would get it off the ground, and he would have terrible landings, but he did this thing. It was really a neat toy, and so he says, "Here, Mom, you try it." I could take off and fly straight into mountains.
Yeah, I was gonna say takeoff is the easy part.
Yeah,
just get it going fast enough in it.
Yeah. Oh man, it was, and I'm like, wow. And that's I guess without the foot pedals and everything else, because they could have done that for him. But
yeah, I played a flight simulator, Microsoft Flight Simulator, and I mean it's impressive what those simulators can do. And again, this is just running on a regular computer. You imagine what Captain Jeff uses for his simulators. Those things are far and above, the wraparound screens and the whole works, I mean, it's impressive. At least you can walk away from those crashes.
Yeah, right. Here I am in the ocean again.
Yeah, exactly. So what are we going to talk about this morning?
Well, I don't know.
Talk about All Souls Day, because we didn't really talk about that last week.
We could. We're moving into Thanksgiving.
Yep, it's coming up.
Advent's coming up.
Got that in a couple of weeks.
I wonder, would you want to do a segment of what your favorite Catholic apps are?
Sure, we can talk about that. I think we've talked about some of them before. We can do that again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've done those as picks of the week.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
Do you have Catholic apps?
I do. I got a few of them. Which I should make sure I've got. Let's see here. It's a good idea. Actually, good reminder to download one or two of them that I had on my phone previously that got. Let's see here.
I've got the Vatican app, and I have it in Italian.
You can read Italian, can't you? Oh,
I can fake Italian. I can read it.
I was gonna say it's probably close enough to Spanish. You can at least.
It's close enough to Spanish for me to totally misunderstand everything.
That's funny.
Right? Because I feel confident that I think I get it.
And the word might be just different enough.
Nope. I like the pictures though, because it's got the Sistine Chapel. And isn't that pretty? So you can see the.
Very nice.
So yeah, what a goofball! I don't know what else you want to talk about.
What was I looking at here?
It's the 800th Jubilee of the Dominicans.
It is.
Order of Preachers. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. Let's see here.
You want to invite Father Kyle? Is he out there? Is Father Kyle Schnippel? Is it Schnippel or is it which one of them? Is he in the chat?
Do we have I don't see any of them in the chat room. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm the only priest in the chat room right now, so as far as I can tell. So, well, let's see here. I'm just kind of skimming through Lynn's notes here. Of course, everybody in the chat room is probably laughing at us. It's like, you guys supposed to do that before you get on the air.
Well, there you go. That's what happens when you don't have a captain around to organize your thoughts.
Exactly. He's the officer. We're just the enlisted grunts.
And the other slackers are AWOL.
Exactly.
AWOL.
I haven't watched Father Roderick's new video yet. His new reaction
video.
I
saw that. For the new trailer.
Yeah.
I saw the link on Facebook just a minute ago. The one with the big red. He said he was working on. I think. Where was it? Maybe I can just watch it real quick. I'm so looking forward to it. Oh, where is it now? You know that I follow him in, I don't know what I did, but somehow I ended up following him on Twitter in Dutch. I don't know. I don't know what I did. There it is.
Must have. Yeah, I think he's got a Dutch feed and an English.
Yeah. Twitter. And I'm following Facebook in English, but for whatever reason, Twitter in Dutch. And every time I see it in Dutch, I laugh and I go, I've got to go find the English one. But then I look at it and whatever. I mean, I follow whatever the links are. But I'm such a spaz. What the heck? How did that happen? I don't think it's out yet. I'm on his YouTube channel. I think he was just talking about it. Huh?
Okay. I was gonna say there's a link in the notes, in Lynn's notes.
To the second one, to October 19th?
Yeah.
It's the second trailer reaction.
Yep.
Oh, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay. Because what I saw on Facebook was that he was I guess he's working on the third one. He was talking about the biblical links.
Ah, very good.
Maybe that's it. Oh, then I am caught up.
Oh, got a couple. Let's see here. Well, I suppose we can get started here. We can probably we'll figure it out as we go.
We'll fumble through.
So, and if nothing else, we cut it short and call it good.
Well, we can probably call it short anyway. It's already 11.
Exactly. So, well, we'll get going here then. Give Captain Jeff a little bit of a break so he knows where to start. This is Catholic Weekend, episode 294 for the week ending November 7th, 2015. Well, howdy y'all. Father Corey here at the helm again. Captain Jeff's off doing his thing, and the rest of the crew is off hiding one way or another. They're AWOL, but I'm not the only one here. Maria's here with me. How you doing there, Maria?
Hey, it's good to be here.
Well, good to be here with you as well. It's
kind of
quiet.
The punctuation.
Uh-oh.
Can you hear my cuckoo clock?
Letting us know we're starting late.
I don't think listeners have heard my cuckoo clock in a long time.
No.
I moved out into the
different room than usual.
I did. I'm in the kitchen. So
okay.
You can see my Last Supper right behind me.
There we go. Well, Captain Jeff's got his bird that goes off every once in a while. I guess you got your cuckoo clock.
Well, I think it's appropriate somehow.
I'm kind of surprised around here. It's not the doorbell or the phone all the time. It seems like those are constantly going off.
Oh gosh.
Saturday mornings are usually pretty quiet though.
We've had a lot of UPS deliveries coming to the house because we're going to be celebrating the holidays with everyone here.
Oh, nice.
So they're sending all their stuff here. And I'm like, seriously? So I'm what? The warehouse?
Yeah, you got a spare room you can put them in, right?
They're all piled in the room where I usually podcast from. I went in there, I looked at the desk and I'm like, wow, well, John's been putting them in there and because it's easy to pile them on the desk. Sure, and I'm like, oh, okay. Well, let me just move out here today.
Exactly. So it usually works out what spare rooms are for, isn't it? For all your junk, you don't want to deal with it.
I guess. Only they're going to be used.
Exactly.
Oh, it's funny though. The kids move out, but they don't move their stuff.
I did that for a while. First when I went off to the Air Force, and then when I went off to seminary. But once I was ordained, my parents said, by the way, you've got a year. Get it out or we throw it out.
Wow. With me, I moved out of the country when I got married. So I graduated college, got married, and left for years.
Mm-hmm.
And my sister wanted to move into my room. So my sister did me the courtesy of packing up all of my junk into boxes.
Oh,
and
wow.
When we moved back into Miami, suddenly I had some boxes that my parents handed to me. And that was the end of that.
Yeah, exactly.
When my brother finished college and moved out, they gave him, I think, a 24-hour period to get all his stuff out of the room. And I thought, wow, that's cold. My sister, who's 11 years younger than me, still hasn't moved out her stuff from the house.
Wow.
Okay, you tell me how that works. I'm not bitter.
Who's the liked one? Oh,
who's the baby?
Either that or they fought with you two enough and they decided we're done.
In fact, my mother has never removed the stuff from the walls. She's changed the furniture around and stuff, but I guess she just hasn't moved the things from the wall. So it's like a shrine to my sister. I'm like, seriously, I go to sleep at your house. It's my old bedroom, and I'm looking at my sister's boyfriend, who's now her husband, on the wall. Life is hard. I know everybody out there is going, wah.
Yeah, first world problems, right?
Firstborn problems.
Firstborn. Oh, I know that one.
The baby doesn't have to move her stuff out. And she lives next door to my parents. So all she does is just go and take what she needs and then leaves it at my mother's house for storage. I'm like, seriously?
Oh, wow.
Whatever. Obviously, I'm bitter.
Yeah, sounds like it. No.
Yeah. Judge me hard. It's okay.
So how things going for you this week?
Oh, it's been a banner week. Had a good time. I spoke to a women's group at Marist Academy here in Atlanta,
Cool.
the Mom's Prayer Group, and it was fantastic. I had a really delightful time, met some really wonderful women, and I got to hang out a little bit with their chaplain and teach them how to make rosaries. That was
very good.
Twine rosaries, so that was a lot of fun.
Good. Very good. That's a very good thing.
It was indeed. How about you? What have you been up to?
Well, this week was kind of quiet. I don't know if you saw on Facebook, but a couple weeks ago I had a tire go flat. So my car was parked in the garage with the dummy spare on, which I hate those things. I grew up with cars that had full spares, the older cars with full spares. So then to have a car that's got the little donut thing that, looks like it can barely support the weight of a bicycle, much less a car.
And not a muscle car or a truck, right? Which car was
exactly. It was the car. It was the Charger. Fortunately, it was only about 25 miles away from home. I was on my way back from something. So it wasn't a big deal. It was nice weather, got on the side of the road, changed the tire, went on with life. Well, I found out an event coming up, and I'll talk about that here in a minute, coming up here this week. I'm going to this coming week. So I had to get the tire changed. Well, one problem with living in small town, you don't have a lot of options as far as, mechanics, tire shops, things like that. So the local tire shop didn't have the right size, but one in Havre did. So Havre's 90 miles away. So road trip time, I hopped in my pickup and ran over to Havre and picked up the tires and brought it back and got the tires changed, and life is good again. So, but not something I expected to do, but at least I got it done. So that was my big excitement for the week.
To go replace a tire.
Yeah. Well, hey, any excuse to get out of town. Because I got to go to Walmart. Woohoo.
Which I tend to avoid at all costs.
Yeah, I usually do too, but sometimes it's about the only option.
I don't like shopping with crowds. I think the greatest thing in the world was Amazon.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Not a fan of going shopping.
I do much. I have Amazon Prime for a reason. But,
because you don't have any stores in town. If you have to drive 90 miles to go get a tire.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we got a few. I mean, I'll say this about Malta. There is a good option. We do have an electronics store. We do have hardware stores. We have, stuff like that. It's just, there's only two mechanics and one of them is perpetually busy.
Has your weather changed that was not a bright idea to be hanging out with a donut?
No, it's just those tires are only designed for about 50 miles maximum. You know, they're only designed to get you somewhere where you can get your main tire fixed.
Hmm.
And they're also only designed for about 55 miles an hour. You're not supposed to do highway speeds on them. You know, at least what we consider highway speeds in Montana.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's highway speed where you are? Whatever you want to do.
70 on 2 lanes, 70 or 80 now on interstates. It's not designed for that though. It's designed to basically get you home.
Yeah.
You know,
No, I get it.
So, but the reason I went through all this to change the tires is because I found out last week that a certain person known to us is going to be in Sheridan, Wyoming, which is about 300 miles away.
Really?
Sarah Fabulous is going to be speaking at a Theology on Tap down there.
Wow. Seriously.
So I'm going to head down on Wednesday and go visit with her and check out her presentation.
Well, she was supposed to be here today, the slacker. Where are you, Sarah?
She said she's not feeling well.
Yeah, she's sick. She's got a bad.
She's
throat.
trying to save her voice because she's going to go to Wyoming and speak next week.
That's pretty cool.
I'm looking forward to it. You know, of course, I haven't seen her since the CNMC. So
yeah, it's been months.
It'd be fun to go down there. And of course, you know, get her up to this part of the country instead of me having to go all the way down to Atlanta to see y'all, you know.
To see us, huh?
Yeah.
Well, gosh, I don't think I've seen her since the CNMC.
She's kind of been busy. Job changes and talks all over the place.
That's right. That's right.
So that's gonna be a lot of fun. Go down there and just, you know, go and visit with her again. And road trips are I'm always up for a road trip. You know,
awesome.
Doesn't matter where, just let's go.
You know, we were just talking about that with one of my kids, because ever since even before we had children, my husband and I would always just get up on Saturday mornings and go road trip. And we would just determine if we were going to go north, south, east, or west and take off.
Just pick a direction.
And just haul off. And so we would do lots of road trips with the kids when they were little. Mm-hmm. And we got really good at just driving overnight, because they would sleep through the night. And if we would take turns, we would get a little bit of sleep on the road and be functional the next day. Sure. And so we traveled a lot like that. So to go for 6 hours or 7 hours just for the heck of it is nothing. I once drove 700 miles round trip to go hear my son sing in a choral production. Sure. Drove 3 hours south, finished. We went to dinner, drove another 3 hours. I was back home. Mm-hmm. And so the kids, for them, that's natural. So my daughter says to me the other day, she says, you people, you really made us into road warriors. And I said, well, it wasn't intentional, but I'm happy to know it. She was going to go visit a friend, and it was, I think, a 7-hour drive. And her friend was like, oh, what an inconvenience. And she was like, 7 hours? We measure everything by how long it takes to get to Miami. That's half the trip to Miami. No problem.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's something that I kind of grew up with too. Of course, living in North Dakota and Montana, you drive. You know, we thought nothing of taking a weekend and going visit family in eastern North Dakota. And at some points in our life, that was 10-hour drive each way.
Wow.
You know, we thought nothing of it. We'd take off on Friday. We'd come back on Sunday, at least, you know, spend the Saturday visiting with them. Mm-hmm. You know, I grew up driving. Heck, when I would go to seminary, I would drive for 14 hours. From my parents' house to the seminary in Chicago was 14 hours.
That's a heck of a commute.
Yeah, I would only do it a couple of times a year. They might get a little miffed if every weekend I was heading home. I couldn't afford that.
I don't think you can do it, can you? You couldn't have done it anyway.
No. I mean, it would have been literally if I didn't have classes on Friday and I could be back on Sunday, but I would be called into the rector's office going, what do you think you're doing? You know?
That's goofy.
No, I definitely wouldn't have done that. But no, out here, we don't think anything of traveling like that. We really don't. You know, to drive Billings is 3 hours. I'm going to go right through Billings to go see Sarah. We think nothing of that. That's a day trip. You know, go down to Billings, do our shopping, do what we need to do, you know, our appointments or whatever, and drive back. Not a big deal. It was kind of mind blowing actually to get to meet people when I was at the seminary in Chicago who had never left Chicago. They had never in their life left the Chicago metropolitan area.
Oh, I know people like that.
And it's just like,
Mhm.
you've never experienced the world. You just know Chicago. And Chicago is not the world, trust me. They might think it is.
They might think the world of Chicago, but it's
Yeah.
not the world. That's pretty cool. So I'm trying to find, what is the Catholic bent on this conversation?
Going to see Sarah, going to see the Catholic drinking.
But my question to you is a different one. Can you imagine how cool it is? I just saw that a couple of people that we know were in the Holy Land. You know, Mountain was, I think, on another tour there, and they walked everywhere.
Oh yeah.
I mean, some pretty hardy distances too.
Oh yeah. It's I kind of am amazed by that. You see like where Jesus went from Galilee to Jerusalem, which you go there today, it's a 3-hour bus ride. At best, 3 hours. You get on the bus, you stop midway. There's a little rest area, gas station that they stop at, and you're there. It's not a big deal. Jesus walked it. It would have taken probably a week.
Wow.
And did it multiple times in his journey.
Well, gosh, I think I saw one time in preparation for Holy Week, we saw everywhere that they walked on the night that on Holy Thursday. And it was pretty crazy, the distance.
Oh, yeah.
And here I am trying to think, I want to walk the Camino de Santiago sometime, the way of St.
That
James.
would be awesome.
And well, Steve's done it. And
that's right. He has.
And I would love to do it. And he told me that I had to walk 15 miles. He says, you're going to need to be comfortable walking 15 miles. I'm like, what? I don't even walk 15 feet sometimes.
Yeah, I know that feeling all too well. It's too easy just to walk from one room to the other, and that's about it.
Right. Otis has just decided to join me for a little love.
Oh, nice.
I'm alone in the house this morning, so I've got all this space to myself and the poochie.
And the dog. And of course, the dog has to be there.
That naturally.
So I saw jumping subjects here. I'm not even going to try to do any kind of segues like Captain Jeff does, because I do them even worse than he does.
Oh, he'll put music in there. Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
The clock will go off in a minute.
Yeah, exactly. So an article I found in our show notes, thanks to Lynn, our wonderful producer, that in the Phoenix, Arizona Planned Parenthood abortion clinic, someone had hidden a image of Our Lady of Guadalupe in a closet within this abortion clinic. So it states that for 30 years, this clinic was also the state headquarters for Planned Parenthood Arizona. And they moved to a new building. And they sold the old building and moved to a new building. Well, the new owner decided to destroy the old building and build a new one. So as they're going through the building, pulling everything out in preparation for demolition, one of the workers found in a janitorial closet, just a regular, mop and bucket and brooms and whatever else you find in a, typical janitor's closet, face down and backwards, an image of Our Lady of Guadalupe. Someone had snuck it in there for Our Lady's intercession on that facility. And it was just found when they were tearing down the building. It's interesting to see that, and of course that image, for those who don't know, is an image of Our Lady pregnant with our Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Because
that's pretty amazing.
The sash that is on there's a ribbon that's around her waist, was, as I understand it, the traditional image for the Aztec people of a woman who's pregnant, because part of their culture was they would not attack, if there was a war or whatever, would not attack a woman who's pregnant. So that sash was the sign that she was pregnant, and Our Lady shows up with that. So it's interesting that someone did that. I've known other pro-life places. Dog wants attention. Otis wants attention.
I'm sorry. Oh, listeners, my dog just climbed up onto me. He's 70 pounds.
Oh, big dog,
Oh,
big lap
it's-
dog. So
So
I've known
that's
of.
it's a very powerful image to think that she's been there watching over those children.
Yeah, you
And
wonder.
and watching their mothers too. Gosh.
You wonder how many, if there have been people who just because of the presence of the image, unknowingly, were turned. They turned away. They went out. They didn't have the abortion. They changed their mind. We know, most. I'm sure, like most abortion clinics, there's been people there praying in front of it. It's that the mothers will not do that. That the place will close. And sadly, this isn't a case where it closed. They just moved to a new office. But it's still, it's still amazing to think of that. When I was in Oregon, my college seminary was out in Oregon, and there was a pro-life center that was like three houses down from an abortion mill. It wasn't Planned Parenthood. It was something else. It was a privately owned clinic. And they actually, on the side of their house, the house that they had bought for this crisis pregnancy center, had put up this like 7-foot tall image of Our Lady on the side of the building. So it could be seen from the abortion clinic, and having that prayer of Our Lady there,
right.
Intercession of Our Lady there at those locations. It's pretty incredible. It's because it's a sad thing. It's a sad thing that it even exists in our country, and it's good. Sure. It's always good to see the hope that people have that one day it'll be gone through the intercession of Our Lady.
Well, I love the idea that she was present there, even in all the terrible things that happened. So it's good. I think it's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
That's crazy.
Absolutely. Yeah, it would be interesting to ever find out who did it. It would be interesting to find out who it was, when it was. Was it somebody who was hired to help clean and snuck it in one night, or what? Something like that. It would be interesting if that story ever comes out. Depending on, again, how long it's been there and whether that person has ever decides to come forward. So it'd be interesting.
Pretty cool.
Story to watch. I thought it was kind of interesting one. A lot of prayers needed for our country this day, and a lot of prayers needed for people in this country this day because of stuff like that. So, speaking of prayers,
the show needs a prayer. I think I'm having some serious bandwidth issues.
Oh, lovely. Isn't that always fun? So, speaking of prayer, we one thing we discussed before the show was stuff to talk about. These phones are so wonderful. And there's lots of great apps on there that we can do to help us with our prayer, to help us with living our lives as Catholic. So, Maria, are there any? You'd mentioned that there's some Catholic apps that you really enjoy using on your daily life. Are there any you'd like to talk about?
I'd have to lead with the question. Can you hear me well? Because
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Because I can just barely hear you. So something weird is happening.
Oh, really?
But yeah. It's kind of bumpy, but maybe it's just the weather here. So yeah, I have some apps, my go-to apps. I have a lot of them. I use actually 2 prayer apps that maybe we can have a conversation on whether it's lazy or not appropriate or what. but I've got the apps from the Divine Mercy app, and I also have the Rosary app that comes from the Marians they're free. It's from the Marian Fathers of the Immaculate Conception, and they're great because I think it's Father Gately's voice that says the prayers. Anyway, I hook up the Bluetooth in my car, and I hit play, and I can pray along with the app without
Sure.
you know, losing my hands or losing sight of what I'm supposed to be doing. So
Right.
it's kind of like I'm having a phone call, if you
Sure.
will, with Mary or Jesus. But I love those two apps. But sometimes, sometimes I'll pray on my phone when we get to mass early, and I didn't carry a rosary with me. I'll just pull it out and I'll just turn off the audio and I just, pray using the beads on the app. So I love those. And I also have Laudate, which
Okay.
I think
Sure.
is
Sure.
probably the most comprehensive app. It has so many things in it. It's got the daily readings, it's got the liturgy of the hours if you want it. I do the Stations of the Cross from it. So I think it's probably one of the more comprehensive and simple apps that are out there, because there's other apps for that, but I didn't mean to joke about there's an app for that. But I think that those are my those are my very basic go-to apps because they're just full of what I need. I don't want all the bells and whistles. I just want access to the prayers.
Sure. Yeah, that's no, I think using an app to help pray is a great thing. Any tool that helps us pray is a wonderful thing. Yeah, I mean, it the love hate with technology and prayer is kind of a weird one because I think ideally we wouldn't use prayer or use any apps for prayer. We wouldn't use the phone. We would just pray so spontaneously from our heart. We wouldn't need them. However, I think all of us get easily distracted in prayer. I know I do. So having apps to help with the prayer, help keep you on track. Like you said, with the audio where you can pray along with a recorded rosary or Divine Mercy Chaplet. Like the chant one they have on EWTN or something like that. Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. I do that as well. Actually, I use one of the apps I use the most is the iBreviary app, which is the Liturgy of the Hours app, where it's multiple languages, not even just English. It's English and Latin and Italian and Spanish, and I think there's about 10 languages or something like that on there. And that's really handy for me, of course, as a priest who needs to pray the breviary, that I can maybe pull it out on the go, or if I'm in a hurry, I can quickly zip it out. I don't need to go find my book and find the right ribbons and all that kind of fun stuff. Makes it a lot easier for that. Another app I use a lot, or not a lot, I used to use a lot. I actually had to just put it back on my phone because I'd forgotten it and I reinstalled my phone at one point and it got lost, is the confession app. There's a couple of them out there where they're examination of conscience, where you go through them and it's simple yes no type questions. Have you ever, since your last confession, have you done this? Have you done this? Have you done this? And you mark yes or no. And then when you go in for a confession, you can have the phone in front of you with that
So
app.
so it works like a directed examination of conscience, right?
Exactly.
It's sometimes an easier thing to do because, I know I go in, but I don't think about everything. Or I've gone into confession and just had the whole deer in the headlights thing. Where it's not that I didn't want to confess sins, it's just that in the whole,
Yeah, exactly. You're sitting there kind of going, I know there's more. I know to confess something. I don't know what it is. I don't remember. Believe me, we all do that. We all get the, oh yeah, I got to make sure I confess this. Got to make sure I confess this. Got to make sure I confess this. Ooh, gone. As soon as you walk in that door. By the way, a hint for some people who are very nervous for confession: the more you go, the easier it gets.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But no, I've gone in.
I'm not saying you're not
for a particular one. No. But I've gone in with a particular sin that has been just weighing heavy on me, and then get that off my chest, and I'm like, okay, I'm good.
That was it. Yeah.
And Father's looking at me and saying, well, you're probably not, but okay. We'll go with it.
It's a start. Yeah.
It's a good start.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's nice
because the foibles of being in confession.
It's always an interesting. Believe me, it's an interesting experience for me as a priest because I see it from both sides. By the way, priests do go to confession too. So, but yeah, it's a nice app for that though, because it helps you to remember, oh yeah, I did it this many times. I did this, I did, and it can just help keep your mind straight. Because yeah, it we do forget, we do get nervous, we do get sidetracked, so that's another nice one. I don't know, are you familiar with the iPietà app?
Which one?
The iPietà.
Yes, I don't use it. True confession now. I don't need absolution for this one, so I'll just confess it. I used to have a full, like a full screen of Catholic apps, because you kind of get excited. Oh, all these things come up, and I had that one, but I've just gone through and deleted most of them, just because I wasn't using them.
Sure.
Having them and not using them for me was just an annoyance to have all of these apps sitting there cluttering the screen.
No, I understand that completely.
I've got a few that I use, that I kept because I just want to be able to utilize them at my convenience. So like I've got the Catholic TV app and I've got the Real Life Radio app, because those are some go-to. Those are some go-to websites that I like. And have you? I also have the Vatican app, and I was telling you before the show. For whatever reason, I have it in Italian.
You haven't switched the language yet?
I've not changed the language. I just go to look at the pictures and the headlines, And so I think I can from Spanish, I can read just enough Italian to misunderstand the entire gist of what's going on.
That's funny.
I do that. But I also I used, I don't want to tell you the apps that I deleted, but I still use Words with Jesus, because it reconciled by you, Allison Gingras.
Yes. Oh yes.
Right. She developed the app, and because it has a setting that it sends me at 8:30 a.m. every morning, it's a line of scripture and one line of reflection. It's the greatest way to pray, because it's like you get a text message from Jesus.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, that's great. That's awesome.
So how we're so tuned into the phone that when I get a text message, I look, and I even have the notifications that come up on the dark screen,
Oh, sure.
So Jesus's text in the morning gets through. And even if I don't want to pray, I'm praying, because there it is.
You're at least looking at it.
Because you're not going to not answer a text from Jesus, let me tell you.
There we go.
Oh, and there's my punctuation with the cuckoo clock.
Yeah, so, there we go.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, no, there's some great apps out there. I mean, there's some great developers. I mean, people have put a lot of time and effort into these apps, and I think there's more out there. Let those who are listening, let us know if you know of any other apps that you might think we like. You might think that we might enjoy using. I'm trying to speak here this morning. It's not working, and the coffee's not quite kicking in. But yeah, there's some great apps. There's some stuff that I've used. Audio for me is impossible, huh? I'm gonna try. Oh boy, I don't know if this will work if I restart. Find a break. Let's see here. Let's bring it Let's see here. Can you hear me in the chat room? This is.
I'm going to come out and come back in, because you can hear me clearly, right?
You got a little bit of static, but otherwise you sound good.
No, I hear every other piece of your words.
Yeah, let's try it. And if it doesn't work,
I'm going to just come back in. I'm just going to come back in and see if that fixes it.
Okay, so Maria just ducked out. It must be on her end, because if you all can hear me in the chat room, how did she sound? Sorry, Jeff, you're going to have a little bit of cutting here as we do this. I was afraid that it was on my end. I even turned down my video quality just in case. There, how does that sound?
Oh gosh. Okay.
Yeah, the chat room said they could hear me just fine.
Yeah, it must have been my connection.
Good.
But I didn't
Okay.
want to sound like a dummy. Every time you said something, I'm like smiling and going, yeah, I'm sure you're saying something of importance. I don't know what you're saying.
I was wondering why you're a little bit quiet. Okay, so they could hear you as well just fine.
Okay.
That's funny. So the problem was between us.
Yeah, it's weird.
But yeah, the static's not there either for you. So
okay, well, let's go back and you tell me all the things that you said because now I want to know what I missed.
Oh, no,
I heard that you said the Pietan app. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a really good one.
Yeah, I like the iPieta app because it's a great resource. It's got so much stuff. One frustration is on Android phones, it's broken up into multiple apps.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it's an old limitation of Android, and they haven't brought out a new version in years. That's the sad, well, maybe not the sad thing about it, but because it's got basically everything it needs, it doesn't need to be updated that often. So they haven't updated it for the newer way Android works. So it can only each application can only be so big, and it kept hitting that barrier. So they just broke off another chunk.
So it's multiple entry points, or within the app you go to different places.
It's multiple apps, multiple entry points, but it will switch. So like if I'm in one and you click to go over to the other, let's say the St. Thomas Aquinas section, it'll just flip to that other app.
Wow.
So it still works like it does on the iPhone, because I had it on the iPad when I had it. But it's just a little annoyance. But it's such great stuff though. Wow. Just anything you can think of, it's there. So I don't remember what else I said. It must have been good.
No, I'm sure it was fantastic.
Now we'll see if Jeff will cut out what while I was waiting.
The transition? I'm sure that he will, because he's a pro.
Oh yeah, he's good at that. Whether or not he actually listens to the show to do it's another story.
Do you listen? I don't listen.
I check back in just to see make sure everything sounds okay from my end, but that's about it. I don't actually listen to the show. No.
Oh my gosh. Whatever. It's a nice conversation to have. I enjoy coming here weekly just to catch up with my friends.
Exactly. Oh, that's exactly it. It's a lot of fun. That's why I do it.
Hi to the peeps out in the audience. You're our friends too. But send us feedback to let us know you're alive
as well. Even if you think we have too much fun. Sorry, I just remembered that one piece of feedback. You guys laugh too much. Oh, okay. Sorry.
Okay. Sorry about that.
We're here to have fun. Sorry. Talk about the Catholic faith, but have fun.
Sorry about that. So what else is going on in the world?
Well, last week we talked about All Saints Day, but we didn't talk about All Souls Day. We had that celebration on Monday, and I did a very risky thing. I actually brought out the black vestments.
Did you really? And
yes.
How was that received?
Very well, very well. Of course, it was daily mass. It was so we had about our usual 10 people at daily mass, and they're usually pretty open to things like that, anyways. It was funny. There was this black mass vestment that's been sitting in a basement here in the church, and I looked at it and kind of kept forgetting about it. Well, I went down to look at it, and it was in perfect shape. It was in a garment bag, so it didn't have the the basement smell, basement funk. So I pulled it out, and it was ready to go. So I was able to use this beautiful vestment, and very positive response. I talked about the reason why we wear black vestments, which is a practice that sadly it's gone away. It used to be at every funeral, used to be at All Souls Day. Every year you would see the black vestments, and it kind of went away. People started focusing the funerals on a celebration of life. You'd hear that phrase being used.
Right.
And so a priest would wear white, which is an option, but the black reminds us to pray for the person, to pray for those who have died, because it is a color of mourning, when we use it, but it's a reminder that we are in need of prayers. Purgatory exists, and the people there need prayers. And that's
Wow,
what funerals are
beautiful.
for.
Our church is full of so many beautiful symbols and traditions, and I think
Exactly.
they're coming back. I think I saw Father Jay Finelli in his black vestments on a picture.
Yeah, he posted a picture. I'm sure it was. Yeah. He's got some beautiful vestments as well.
Oh my gosh,
there's some beautiful ones out there. Amazing. Can't afford them, but they're beautiful. Oh, those new vests. Some of those elaborate vestments are just amazing, but they're pricey. They're not cheap.
Well, of course not, because they've got beautiful artwork on them.
Exactly, and it really is
embroidery on them is gorgeous. I love to see. We've got our vicar or associate or whatever the terminology is, and wherever you are, has some gorgeous vestments that are just beautiful. And we had a pastor some years ago who, I think he had everything left over from the 70s tie-dyed stuff that was, and they're just so, they're so I'm going to call them archaic. People think that the beautiful vestments with the embroidery are the ones that are archaic, but those are the traditional beautiful ones. His just looks stuck in time. The old ones looked, very era specific.
Yeah, we've got a lot of them around here. You see a lot of them in this diocese, the ones that they look like they're burlap sacks.
Yeah.
It's just like, that doesn't look good. Or, polyester.
Well, they don't have to iron them.
Yeah, exactly. Don't get me wrong. There's a time and place for some of the cheaper vestments, but some of them are just ugly.
No, but they do. They served the purpose in a time when when there was a poor budget for something like that. But people would be, it never occurred to me to give vestments as a gift. But I think that it's something that you would appreciate. Although I know that some of them can be several $1,000s. I've seen some of the pricey complete sets.
It definitely, I think most priests that, if you talk to them, that if they're interested in nicer vestments, there's some priests that aren't. They like the simple vestments. They want the simple vestments. They bought the simple vestments, the 1970s era vestments. Obviously they're not going to appreciate a more elaborate vestment. But those of us who do, those priests of us who do, I think we would, most of us, if not all of us, would greatly appreciate if a layperson comes to us and says, "Hey, we want to buy you, a nice Marian vestment. We want to buy you a nice black vestment. We want to buy you a nice rose vestment. What are you thinking? What would you like?" Obviously you don't want to just give them a vestment and say, "Here you go. I don't like this style, but thank you.
This isn't my taste for you to have to wear now forever."
Exactly. And that's always the risk, because kind of a funny story. And the vestments they have there are decent. They're plain, but they're decent. One of my missions, I would just carry my own vestments, because I've got a couple decent vestments that I own and I use them. And one of the ladies comes up and says, "We bought vestments." Okay.
Let's take a look at what you got.
Yeah. And they're not the worst. They're better than some I've seen. They're not my style. They're not anything I would buy, because they are very plain. There's no decoration to them. But that's what they bought. That's what they're using. So, but it's I
never really thought. I just never really thought that it was also a personal choice that you would be making.
Well, in an ideal world, every parish would have nice vestments.
Sure.
Not just basic vestments, but worthy, nice vestments. Some parishes did, and sadly, they got thrown out. Some parishes never did. They just had simple ones. I know we've got some vestments here that were actually given to the church by the Catholic Extension Society. Who makes the calendars. They that was one of their services they provided in the past. I don't think they do anymore. I've not heard of them doing it anymore, but they used to. They would build a church and then provide vestments for it. Decent, nice vestments. They weren't elaborate, but they were nice. Other cases, churches bought them. Some cases, a lot of times now, they'll priests buy their own. They just have
Mhm.
their own sets.
Mhm. And you travel with those. When I was recently in Cuba, one of the days after the Pope had left, and we were just staying out with family and just hanging around with our own family trip. Some of the priests that were in the mass in Holguin had
Mhm.
stopped by just to say goodbye to my uncle as they were moving back to their parishes and whatnot. And one of the young priests was so delighted because he showed us the stole that was given to them for all the priests that participated in that mass.
Okay.
Were gifted with a stole, and he was showing it to us, and he was just so pleased with it. And I thought, well, you got a gift from the Pope. I think
Yeah,
that's a
exactly.
special thing. Um, but I thought, well, I guess if the Pope gives it to you, you're going to use it, whether or not
Exactly.
it's in your style. But every once in a while, I see the stole is under is
The
under
chasuble,
the
yes.
chasuble, so you don't really see it unless you're just in your alb, right? As a
Mhm.
as a concelebrant.
Exactly.
Please tell us, I mean, what's the meaning of all of these vestments and the order
Sure.
in which you wear them? Because that would just
Sure.
be a neat thing to
Before I do
listen
that, I
to.
gotta make sure our resident punster Mike Kuipers is brought into this. He says they're
Oh
in dash
gosh,
vestments.
there you go. Naturally, but
But so yeah, each vestment actually has symbolism, and it's kind of funny where some priests, I don't think they realize the symbolism because they wear the vestments in a way that sends a message they're not trying to send. So like even like the alb, the white alb, that's the one that people are most familiar with. That symbolizes our baptism. The white symbolizes the purity of our baptism, the purity of our souls at baptism. Of course, we do our best to soil them up after baptism through our sins, but this alb shows that purity that we had at baptism. Then over that, the priest will put on a cincture. That's the rope, and that's actually chastity, because it's put around above the waist. So it's the sign of chastity, reminder of the need for chastity in our lives. Um, then there's the stole, which
and
people are
does
very
that have a particular color?
that usually matches it usually matches whatever the color of the day is. So, and most of the time it's part of a set with the chasuble. They match the chasuble. Doesn't necessarily have to. It looks better when you do, though, of course. But it's usually the color of the day, or in the case of confession or something like that, will be purple. There's different times you use different colored stoles. As I recall, like for baptism, a priest should use a white stole, for example. So, but the stole represents the authority that is given to the priest by our Lord. Because the stole was traditionally the sign of authority in, I believe, in the Jewish culture. I can't remember exactly, but I believe it. The Pharisees and that was one of their signs. I can't remember if I think it's the Jewish culture. I could be completely wrong on that. It might even be Roman culture for all I know. But then over that symbol of authority, the stole, we put on the chasuble, which is Christ's mercy and love. So over the authority of the priest, we should be showing mercy and love. Because the chasuble drapes over that. Which is why I laugh when I see a priest who wears his stole on the outside of the chasuble, which some priests do, because they're saying that the authority ranks over the mercy and the love.
Hmm.
And usually
Oh,
these
that's what
priests,
you meant by the unintended message.
yeah, and
Yeah.
usually these are priests who they would be mortified if they truly understood that meaning.
Mm-hmm.
They,
They
they
probably
would.
have a pretty stole that they want to show off or something like that.
Well, there are vestments out there that are designed like that, where the
Mm-hmm.
chasuble is very plain, but it's an elaborate stole.
Hmm.
And it's just like, that's not how it's supposed to be. And there's other vestments that some priests wear and some priests don't, depending on what mass they're celebrating or if they're more traditional or not. The amice, which is worn around the neck, and things like that. The maniple, which you see a lot of times in the older mass, you don't see so much in the newer stuff like that. So
Very
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
And so,
There's
do you wear the rectangular instead of the oval chasuble for a traditional mass, the tridentine mass, or is
Yeah,
that just the preference?
that's the preference. You can wear both. That you can wear the they call it the Gothic, which is the more oval shaped, or more the poncho look. You know, it looks more like a poncho. Um, you can wear that as long as you've got the full set.
Mm-hmm.
And likewise, you can wear the fiddleback, the more narrow version, at either. You know, it's preference. I know priests who they wear fiddlebacks for everything, whether
Hmm.
it's the traditional form or the new form. I know priests who wear they call it the Gothic or the semi-Gothic, which is a little more cut shorter. It goes usually more like a short sleeve shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they'll wear that at either.
Hmm.
Just as long as they got the full set, it doesn't really matter. You know, the chalice veil and all that. It doesn't matter what style they use. There's some styles out there. Actually, there are some ancient styles. I think they call them the conical vestment. The thing actually looks like, if you hold it out, it looks like a circle around the priest.
Oh, really?
It's you have to actually kind of, you know, like roll up your sleeves to hold your hands up.
No kidding.
It's
Oh, I
that
might
long of a
have to.
vestment.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, there's vestments that change throughout the years. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't think people realize that they're not static.
Yeah. Well, I guess they would reflect the times. So
Exactly.
so those
Well,
old.
times and development, and
Mhm.
you know, styles too. Then you get the Eastern vestments, which are just amazingly beautiful, elaborate as all get out, but amazingly beautiful.
So how many times have you been on the altar thinking I'm going to faint?
Oh, thanks be
A
to God,
small,
not too often.
a small mortification in the big picture, but yeah, I guess it probably can get a little warm in the summer.
Oh yeah, there have been a few times where I've gotten a little lightheaded. I mean,
Yeah.
there have been a few times where I haven't gotten dizzy. I will say that. Definitely, there have been a couple of times that my collar, of my shirt is just absolutely soaked. My shirt is
Wow.
completely soaked through because I'm sweating so bad. Well, we don't have air conditioning in our churches here. The three
Uh-huh.
churches I have do not have air conditioning.
Wow. Well, but
Because of the,
conversely, in winter, you're probably very cozy.
it can get a little cool. They're big churches, you can imagine.
Well,
Um,
when I wear the academic regalia for graduations and other formal events, uh, and we're up there. Sometimes we're in the lights are hitting us
mhm.
straight on, and it can be really uncomfortable wearing
Yeah,
all those
yeah,
layers.
yeah.
It's
That's kind
funny.
of what it's like. You know, it can be, if it's 100 degrees outside, it could be as, warm as 80. You know, yeah, about 80 degrees usually in the church.
Hmm.
You know, that's with fans going and windows open and trying to get some breeze going. And yeah, I'm a little warm at that point. You know, let's put it this way: during the summer, I don't wear long sleeve shirts at all.
Oh, I bet not. Well, today's episode is Father Corey Unplugged.
Yeah, that's about it. Title? No, I'm kidding.
Well, that's neat. It's always, for me anyway, it's always interesting to have the behind the scenes, look
Yeah.
at what's going on. It's pretty neat. Gives me a different appreciation for
Well,
for
you
what
know,
you
as
do.
priests, we only work one day a week, so I mean, it's not a big
That's
deal.
right. That's all you do. That's all you do. You can suffer for the hour
Yeah,
in the
exactly.
bright lights.
Show up
Whatever.
for that one mass. That's all we do. Because of course, the only time the priest is there is at the mass you're at. You know, I mean, no, I'm kidding.
Yeah. So some other questions that I have. So the celebrant wears the chasuble, but the concelebrants don't always.
They can, and it actually is the preference. I was looking at the books, the general instruction a few months ago, and it actually is the preference that if all possible, the concelebrants should be wearing chasubles. They don't have to
Oh, they
match.
should, huh?
They should. However, for the most part, a lot of priests don't. They just wear the stole. Um, and actually, there are vestment sets that have concelebrant stoles. It's actually a second stole for a concelebrant
That matches with
that
the.
matches the main
Huh.
vestment exactly.
That's
Um,
very interesting.
yeah, but of course it depends too, because for example, if you've got a large gathering of priests, let's say at a chrism mass, for example, it's not always possible for all the priests to have chasubles.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll just have, a diocesan stole, for example.
Yeah. Oh, my parish is blessed to have a handful of deacons, and so they have dalmatics that match. So they actually have complete matching sets.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Some places don't. Some places the deacons don't even wear the dalmatics. I think around here in this diocese, for the most part, they don't, which is kind of a shame.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful when they're matched, because I know that they own their own too, because I'm sure family has given them gifts, over time. But it is very pretty to see them. They tend to try to match for like the Easter Vigil.
Well, sure. Yeah, the more elaborate masses, absolutely.
The bigger masses are they're all matching. That's very pretty.
Yeah, no, it's nice, and the dalmatic is a beautiful vestment as well. Not the most comfortable to put on, because it is more like putting on a shirt, but
it's got that strip on the side, right, that connects it, so it makes it a little, yeah.
I mean, some of them, it's supposed to look more like a shirt, more like a jacket.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen some more traditional ones where it's all open. It's just kind of cut, so it looks like a,
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. That's kind of the traditional way of doing it. So you just put it on just like a chasuble. You just pull it over your head. You don't have to worry about the sleeves or anything like that.
Oh, cool. Well, thanks for that peek behind the peek into the sacristy, I guess.
Not a problem.
Neat.
We should take a quick break. Believe it or not, we're actually going to fill out the show. We're actually going to make it. Yay. Oh, but take a quick break here before we go on to our picks of the week, which I've got to make sure I get mine pulled up too. And thank all our listeners, all our viewers, all those who are watching it on the SQPN site or downloading it through podcast. Thank you for listening to all the SQPN programs. It's like the public television stations. We can't exist without you. You support us, and we thank you for that support. One way you can support us is through the Amazon link off of SQPN's website. If you go to sqpn.com and click the Amazon banner at the top right of the website, and then do your Amazon shopping, as I did earlier this week. I had to order some stuff from Amazon, and I did that to support SQPN. SQPN will get a cut of it. It won't cost you a penny more. Amazon doesn't charge anymore. They take a little bit out of their profits and send it to SQPN. So that really, really does help out SQPN a lot. There's also, you can get hosting through Bluehost, right? Yeah, I'm drawing a blank now. It's Bluehost, right?
Bluehost.
Yep, there we go.
I think most of us are on Blue. Yeah, I'm pretty sure now most of us are on Bluehost.
Yeah, I think I'm one of the last holdouts. I haven't switched mine over yet. I should do that next time. Next time my subscription comes up, I should change over. Give me a good chance to redo my blog as well. But when you sign up through Bluehost, they will give SQPN a little thank you for sending you their way. So please do check that out as well off of the SQPN website. So thank you again to everyone who have supported us in the past and continue to support SQPN in its future endeavors. So it is time for the picks of the week. Do you have one?
I have a pick of the week, and I'm going to let you go first in case that's yours.
No, go ahead. It's probably not. So
probably not. Well, you said that you were going to go see Catholic Drinky Wednesday, right?
Yes.
So I want to remind everybody to pick up the Catholic Drinkies Guide to Homebrewed Evangelism, which is available through Amazon. And they've got it on sale, I think. Yeah, they do. So check out Sarah Vabulous, the Catholic Drinkies Guide to Homebrewed Evangelism.
Excellent. Yes,
it's great. I've got my own signed copy, and it's got the recipes in there, but it also has a lot of history. So it's a neat book to have.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I read through it as well, and it's not, the first half is a great book to read during adoration, because it really is a wonderful discussion on evangelization and the importance of it. The second half, where she's talking about breweries and recipes, just makes you thirsty if you like beer.
It says you have crazy passports to go through all of the breweries in your area, right? How's that going?
Unfortunately, I haven't hit any new breweries recently to be able to stamp it. They're so
Oh,
far away. Because there's lots of, by the way, there's 60 breweries in Montana right now. Montana has a population of about 1 million people total, and there are 60 breweries for this state. It's the third most breweries per capita, but a lot of them are quite a distance away. There's some of them that are 400, 500, 600 miles away. So it's not like you can just drop down there and have a beer.
Unless it's you. You said you were a road warrior. You would
I love
drive
road
10
trips,
hours.
but, if I'm going to drive that far to a brewery, I'm going to have more than one beer, which means then you have to stay overnight.
Oh, fair enough.
Being a road warrior does not mean drinking and driving.
Thank you.
I don't know what I can't imagine my bishop's reaction if I showed up with
Nope.
the DUI. Let's just put it that way.
No.
Definitely, I agree with you on Sarah's book. It's excellent. It's excellent. So, and I think she still does it where you can order it through her website, and you can get it signed by her.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's still doing that. So if that's an option,
we'll go through CatholicDrinking.com.
Exactly. Check that out. So excellent choice. And I'm looking forward to seeing her. My choice actually is another book, but it's an older book. It's a book that came out about 15 years ago, and was written while its subject was still alive. What I picked is Witness to Hope, the biography of Pope John Paul II.
Yes.
Which is a very, very, very thick book. George Weigel is an excellent author. And of course, Pope John Paul II, now Saint Pope John Paul II, is an excellent subject to read about. I'm only a couple of chapters in because it is a very, very thick book. And George Weigel's packed a lot of information, not just about Pope John Paul II, but also kind of his background in the history of Poland. He speaks a lot about the history of Poland and kind of how that shaped the Polish people today, especially our Holy Father, or our saintly Holy Father. It's an excellent book. Excellent, very well written. It was very much written in collaboration with Pope John Paul II, who was still alive at the time. This was year 2000 is when it came out. So it was very much a telling of his story, which is a very amazing story. He grew up between the two, or he was born between the two world wars, had to suffer through the Nazi regime, had to suffer through, of course, the Soviet regime for many, many years, was instrumental in breaking up the Soviet regime, not just in Poland, but in the Soviet Union itself. So wonderful story. I mean, this is what I'm reading now during adoration. Is fantastic. This book, and just because it's a fantastic story. And, a part of it is I'm going to Poland for World Youth Day in July.
So awesome.
Which is going to be amazing. So this is actually a really good book for preparation for that, to get kind of the background and the feel for Poland, the Poland that I'm going to be going to visit with millions of people, I'm sure. So very much, if you haven't read it, it is worth reading. Again, it's thick. I mean, let's hear if they show on here how on Amazon's site how big it is, because I was gonna try to click the screen share. Oh, that helps. It really helps to shut that little X by clicking on the screen share. It's over 1,000 pages long.
Oh, that's a huge book. Yeah, I think I might have read that book. I've read 2 or 3 about him, and so in my mind they kind of cross over with what their content is.
So I've had it for years, and I've wanted to read it, and I've never. I think I picked it up once and just kind of got discouraged because it is so big. But it is a wonderful book, or not so much discouraged, just kind of got distracted.
Well, because it's a huge, when you've got such huge books, you've got to have a plan.
Yeah.
You've got to tackle it a bit at a time.
Yeah. And admittedly, I love books. I love reading, but I love reading lots of books.
Oh, wow.
So I'll start reading one and then pick up another and get more interested in the other and forget about the first. And then I'll get interested in a third, and just kind of down the line. I've got a lot of books with bookmarks where I'm about halfway through,
I used to read like that a lot, but I would get through them. Now
Mhm.
I tend to just try and tackle a book and just finish it, but I wouldn't pick up
Yeah.
a 1,000-page book like that and say I'm going to sit it and read it in one sitting.
No, you really can't. I mean, it is a wonderful book, but it's dense. It's not
Mhm.
it rather fitting because that's kind of how I find John Paul II's writing. Wonderful, but very dense.
Well, how courageous of you to say that.
Oh, I loved Pope John Paul II. I truly do, and he really is. He really was a saint. He really is a saint. I no arguments there. I find some of the stuff he's written to be very difficult to understand. I admit it. I fully admit it. Mea culpa. Send feedback if you disagree. If you think I'm a heretic for saying it. No, I'm kidding.
Not a popular response, I would say.
Yes and no. It depends.
I like Benedict's writing.
I do too. I very much found him to be
Yeah.
more concise, which
Yeah.
I prefer. So, well, so where can people find you there? Find you, Maria?
Well, you can follow me on Twitter at Bego, Bego. I'd love for you to come and read my blog, mariamjohnson.com. And I usually post, what I'm up to. Next week, next Friday, the 13th of November, I'm going to be having an author hangout, a
Ooh,
Google Hangout with Ave Maria Press. So if you want to go and ask questions or just hang out with me for about an hour next Friday, I'm going to be on the air. So that's going
on
to be
Friday
cool.
the 13th.
Friday the 13th. I will not be wearing my mask.
Won't be wearing a Freddy Krueger mask. Huh?
No mask. No Jason mask for me.
There we go.
But yeah, I'd love for you guys to come and see me and ask questions. It'll be good.
Wonderful. It sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
And you can find me at Father Corey Stika on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I'm also my website is frcorey.org. That's where I post my homilies, and hopefully someday it'll get moved over to Bluehost so I can support SQPN. And also, speaking of SQPN, we should be recording another episode of Secrets of Doctor Who this week. So you can find me there with Jimmy Aiken from Catholic Answers and Dom Bettinelli, and of course, the estimable Father Roderick. So please do join us for that as well. Thank you for joining for our episode this week. I hope you have a blessed week and have a great Catholic weekend. And we're done.
Awesome.
We actually got a full episode.
Oh, how about that?
Somehow stumbled through it.
Once we get going, we're good.
Yeah, we still have people here even. Hey, that works.
Really? Who else here? You know what? I have not been.
Well, just in the chat room, it looks like it's just me and Mike.
It's just you and Mike.
But we got 3 viewers, so some people survived. Even with the technology problems.
Yeah, that was just really weird. It was just obviously it was on my end, but I
Google.
understand you.
I've been having weirdness with Google, with all Google stuff. Like I had a while there where I couldn't even, I use Gmail on the browser, and it stopped working where I couldn't get into it. And so I don't know what's going on. They must be having. They're just having glitches, I guess. I don't know. It's Google. They put out some good stuff, but sometimes it gets weird.
Oh my goodness. Father J just posted a picture of him with Santa.
Oh, did he really? Oh, that's funny.
Oh my goodness. At least
that's
after Halloween.
Exactly. Oh, that's too funny.
Oh my goodness. He kills me. Well, I'm going to go do housework, sir.
Sounds good. Good to visit with you as always.
Yeah, it's good to see you. Hello.
So long to Yep. So long to Mike.
Bye, guys. Thanks for supporting us.